Hello, I'm Jenny with Gogh Art Crate, and today I'm going to be leading you through a really cute, illustrative, absolutely non-realistic owl, and this is really fun for both kids and adults to do, and together too. It's a fun one. You can do like kind of a kid and parent sort of painting. If you want to do that, you can paint more than one owl on the same canvas, but I'm going to guide you through one little owl sitting on a branch. I just got some dust on my canvas I wanted to knock off there. And yes, it's not realistic at all. The colors are totally out of the realm of what it would be found on a normal owl, but that's what's fun about the painting world is you can alter your universe. This video is made specifically for fossil distance learning programs, so they got a kit in the mail. But anyone can do it. I'll just tell you what colors and brushes you need, and most of you might have these supplies in your house. So I'm using a palette, but you can use any sort of palette. I know some of you guys have the round plastic ones, which work great for acrylic or watercolor. And then brushes, I have just a little handful of different sizes. Those of you with fossil will have a kit with a lot of brushes, and you'll probably only end up using 3 of those. So you have lots of extra brushes to play with for other projects. Colors, we have black and white. We have yellow. This is called phthalo blue. It's just a dark navy blue. And this is called phthalo red. It's just kind of a magenta, but honestly, you could just use the primary colors plus black and white. So the primary colors are red, blue, and yellow, and black and white. And you can get the same effect that we're going to do right here. So what I'm going to do first is mix up my background color. So I want to take my largest brush, and you might have one that's a little bigger. You might have one that's more like this size. That's totally fine. But I do want to dip it in my water cup. So yes, you will need a cup of water for washing your brush, some old cup that you can get paint on. And then you'll want either a paper towel or a paint rag. But I like to dampen the brush first and kind of brush the bristles across the bottom of the cup. And then dry that brush off really good. So having the water on the brush at first kind of just wakes it up and makes it a little more flexible. Sometimes they get stiff after sitting there for a while. So I'm going to create kind of a light blue, and then I'm going to add a little yellow to it to make it kind of greenish, but you can do just a pale blue background if you want, or any other color. You could do a pink background, but let's mix up our color. So white for me, and I always tend to not mix enough color. The white accidentally came out of my paint bottle really fast, so you probably won't use this much white. I just have a lot on here. And I'm going to add a little blue to it. My dog really wants to play this morning, but she's going to have to wait. So I'm just mixing this around. So if you hear her barking in the background, that's why. She's just yelling at me because she thinks it's playtime. So this is a great color to use as a background color. But I'm going to play with it a little further, and what will happen when I add the yellow to it is I will get a kind of a turquoise, greenish bluish color. And the other color that you could add here is a little of this pink or red, and that would turn this kind of lavender. So it's up to you. Let's try adding a little yellow. A little bit goes a long way. So I like to just gradually add it. I'm ending up with a giant puddle of paint here, which is good. Now I could keep adding yellow and make it more and more and more green. Or I could add blue back in and bring it back to more of a blue tone. It's entirely up to you. I could add more white, and white would turn it kind of what's called a seafoam color. It's actually already really close to what I would call a seafoam green. Pretty color. Let's set this aside. You can just set it in your water cup or on your paper towel. We're going to use it in a few minutes. But we want to pick up one of our small brushes for drawing. I like this little guy here. Sometimes there's a little number. Yeah, this has a little 2 on the handle. But you might have several in your pack that has a 2 on it. Let's go ahead and dip it in the water cup. Wake those bristles up. Dry it off on your paper towel. And dip your brush in your background color. So I like to draw the shape out of the background color and then paint the background all around it. And that is for drying time. It works way better than layering and layering and layering when we're doing a shorter video. So I'm going to make, this owl is kind of one of those ones that has a little pointy feather tufts that look like ears. So I'm going to make one there and one here, just little triangles. They can be kind of rounded if you want. They can sort of point outward if you want. large or small as your owl, you can determine however you want to have it be is the way it will be. And then I'm just going to go across for the top of the head. It can be a slightly rounded line or flat. Really anything goes here. Looks like we're drawing a cat. And then for the body, it's really simple. We're just going to do kind of a big U shape. So this owl is sort of hunkered down on a branch. And so he's not fully extended. I don't know if you've ever seen owls with their legs extended. They have really long legs and you'd never know it until you see them like stretch. It's the funniest thing. I honestly never knew my entire life until maybe 3 years ago. I saw a video on Instagram or something. It was so funny seeing it stretch up like that. So I have kind of a medium-sized owl. You can make a large one or a small one. I wouldn't go too much smaller than this because then you kind of end up losing a lot of detail sometimes. Let's wash that little brush off and set it aside. And go back to your big brush. I don't really need to wash the color off, but it's got a lot of water on it, so I want to dab it on both sides. So yeah, you'll end up with a lot of paint on your paper towel. Let me scoot this over a little so you can see my... Gosh, that's such a pretty color. I really like it. All right, for the background, I'm just going to paint all different directions. I like kind of a choppy background, and I'll show you some cool techniques you can do once you get some paint on here. I'm going to go around the owl first, and then I'll show you some fun stuff you can do. So you see now, by drawing the owl in the background color, we'll end up with just this nice white shape that will be ready for paint once we get the background filled in. So this is why I'm starting around the owl, because I want this to have the most drying time. So while we're working over here, this is drying, and we won't end up with extra color that we don't want smeared into the owl. It's funny how those little ear tufts, little feather tufts, end up looking so small once I get the background filled in around it. And some of you guys will paint really fast with this sort of background, but we don't need to speed run it. Just take your time. Some of you guys will paint a little slower. Everybody goes at their own pace. And as long as we end up with the painting finished, we're good. But I do recommend trying not to speed run it too much because you lose a lot of good detail and things that can make your painting look really cool in the end. So look, I have a blue lion. That's what it looks like right now. And now I'm going to show you the cool effect I was talking about. So one thing I can do is I can take this brush. I don't need to wash it. And maybe I'll just dip the very tip of the bristles and pick up the tiniest little speck of blue. And you can sort of hash that in around here and blend it. And that's just going to give your background some more depth and dimension. So rather than being one solid color, you've got different tones going on. I just really love this look. But if you want a solid background color, there's no shame in that either. You can absolutely have this painting set to your desires. You're the artist here, so you get to make those decisions. And that's how you learn, is creative decisions, like deciding whether you're going to do this part or not. And then you learn for your next painting. You know, that really worked that last time, so I'm going to do it again. The other thing I like to do with this sort of background is, wow, our lion's looking really cool. Our owl lion. I'm going to take a little white on the brush now, and that's another color you can add in here and just sort of hash around in there and blend it. And you can keep doing that as you go throughout and fill out the whole canvas. You can just start with your base color, let your brush run out of paint. When it starts running out of paint and you're dragging it and not a lot of paint's coming off, then go for picking up a little of the dark blue. This is only if you're doing the color I am doing. If you did like a purple background, you could use maybe the pink or red in place of the blue, or the blue, either way. But if you're doing a purple background, I will warn you against using yellow for this because it will turn muddy, because yellow, blue, and red, all three mixed together, they actually, in the end up making a brownish shade. Just keep working away. And sometimes I'll paint on an easel, but for filming purposes, I need to paint flat on the table. And my canvas is rocking around a little bit. Hold on 1 second. One of my pieces of equipment just decided to die. But I think in the end it's going to be okay. It's still recording. That's what I want. I'm going to see if I can turn it back on real quick. Okay. It's dead. It said it had 20% battery, which is cutting it a little close, but I didn't think it would go through 20% battery that fast. But it's how it works. Okay, so you can see I'm getting the white on here. If you end up with a halo of the original color around your owl, you can come in with this brush using small brush strokes and bring some of the more bluish color in there if you like, or you can end up with this sort of greenish halo around. The owl itself is just glowing. I need a little bit bigger brush. This is kind of a small brush for painting of a full-size canvas. So maybe I'll just do a little bit bigger brush strokes. The background is important, but it's not the most important part of the painting. So it's the one thing you can go kind of fast on if you feel like you want to go fast. I'm liking all these mottled colors together. So yeah, it's just kind of a mottled texture is what I would call that. I could try it. Let's see what happens if I put a little yellow in there. Then I get some really green patches. And it's really cool. I've done some paintings of like forest scenes before where I've put the yellow or even like a pale yellow mixed with white in little patches. And it just looks like if you've ever been in the woods and you see the sun shining through the trees and you kind of get that really textured, mottled look. That's what it can end up looking like. Or it can just add a nice little extra pop of color, which I am always a fan of. I think I made just the right amount of this base color. I'm just making sure to get paint around the edges if I've missed any spots. And that's something you can always do later, like after the class is over, after this video is over, I should say. You can always go back and touch things up. Some of my Gogh students will continue to work on their paintings long after the videos are over, just so they can perfect it. And I know I've said this before, but Leonardo da Vinci, who's a famous artist, said, paintings are never finished, they're just abandoned. So I guess in that case, I have a lot of abandoned paintings because my house is full of them. And a lot of them I look at and I'm like, I need to go back and finish that. But apparently they're abandoned. Okay, my background is starting to dry. I can see that where it becomes less shiny. And your brush kind of drags across in those areas, and that's good. I want this to dry. I'm going to wash my brush. And right now my owl looks a little out of shape. Like it kind of just looks like I choppily cut out a piece of white construction paper and stuck it on there. But when we start filling in the color in the body, it's going to come together and look nice. Okay, so a little while later when the background's dry, we're going to put a little branch under the owl and some leaves, and we'll put some feet on top of the branch. But for the owl itself, you get to choose some colors. So we have the eyes, which I'll probably do those in white because I can't think of any other color on here that would work, that would look okay. I mean, I guess I could do the eyeball blue, but the white part of the eye, I want to keep white. And then it'll have kind of a face mask, so you can choose that color. And then you'll have your two wings on either side. You can choose what color you want those, and then the chest. And then we'll have the beak and the feet. So let's go ahead, and if you want to follow what I'm doing, feel free to do that. I'm going to make a light pink color for the face. I think that's what I had planned on. Yes. So to make a light pink, you'll use your red or phthalo red, which is what we have, and white. So I'll use a smaller brush and make a pink that I like. This is looking good. I think I like that. If I added yellow to that, it would make kind of a coral color. So that's something you can experiment with as well if you want to. But first things first, I'm going to draw a couple of large eyes, just round eyes. And I'll just try to make them about the same size and about the same height, width, all that. But they're never going to be exactly the same. That's okay. And let's go ahead and draw in the beak. If you need to use a smaller brush for that, you can. But for now, we're drawing it in pink, but we're going to color it in a different color. There we go. It can be up high. You can have it way up here. That's kind of gives it a cute look. Or you can do it down lower. I guess that gives them kind of like the wise owl look. And before we go too much further, I'm just thinking here. Let's go ahead and paint in the ears, or the feather tufts that look like ears, and around the eyes. So if your background is still really wet around your owl and you're having the background kind of smear into your pink color or whatever color you made, just just be really careful around that area, or you can wait a few minutes. It just takes a few minutes for the paint to dry, or it doesn't even have to fully dry. It just becomes tacky enough that it's not going to smear as much. So right now I'm just bringing this color kind of to the outside corner of the eye, because we need to paint the wings on first before we finish the face mask part. It's like a pink Batman. It's owl man. You could totally make this into a bat. Oh, the places we could go. And we will outline this because right now the tones of the pink and the tones of this they're contrasting, but it's not a super high contrast. So outlining it with black will definitely help make everything stand out. And it makes it look cute and illustrative. Go ahead and wash your brush. And let's pick a wing color. So on my little chart and on the original version of this painting, which has long been lost, I painted them in lavender. And the way you make lavender is you make your light pink again. So you might have some left. And you can do your wings any color you want. I'm here as a guide, as a suggester. But if you decide you want yellow wings or some other color, please, by all means, go for it. That's your creative brain coming through, and we want that. Okay, so I'm going to add a little blue to that, just a little at a time, because it can overpower it for sure. And you can see already I'm getting this pretty lavender tone, and I can make that a little darker by adding a little more blue and a little more of this pink or red, whatever color you're using. Now it's kind of blue heavy, so I need to get some more of the reddish color back in there. And this is really close to what I want. It's just very streaky, so I need to stir it up a bit. Okay, so let's draw the wings on. And they're pretty simple. They're just going to come in like you're doing a C shape on this side. See that? Or a crescent moon shape. How far down? I'm going to actually go further down. And I'll close that off here. And then you can fill that in. And we'll do one on the other side too. So I just try to match it up as close as I can. Like I said, we're not like using a traced drawing here, so we just do the best we can. Do the best we can and adjust as needed. That's my theory here. So owls are my favorite animal, and anyone who's been following our channel for a while will know that because I talk about them a lot, and I've done a lot of paintings of owls. So most of them are actually realistic. So this is really fun doing one that's not realistic. And they are like so top secret. You never see owls anywhere. They are nocturnal, so that's one of the reasons we don't see them a lot unless they're hanging around outside at night, which nobody really wants to do that. And yeah, they sleep during the day. So occasionally, when we've walked our dogs in the dark at night, I'll see one flying by. And one time there was one in a tree and we could walk right up to it, like within 5 feet of it. I didn't want to get any closer than that because I didn't want to spook it, but I also didn't want it to think it needed to attack me for any reason. Okay, so let's make these look even more wing-ish. You can bring it down just a bit and outside the body just a little. So maybe his wings are just slightly fluffed out. I like slightly fluffed out. That's cute. So see how I'm bringing it down into the background to kind of a little point, and then you can round this out into the background a little. Yep, I like that. Very good. And let's wash our brush once you have that in. So we'll think about what color we're going to paint the chest and all that. But for now, I think this is a really good time for us to paint the branch on because we really need to not bother with this too much until it dries a bit more, which will only take a few minutes. So for the branch, we can make brown out of the colors we have on here. So you can do it by mixing the 3 primary colors together. But I have found the easiest and quickest way to get a brown with this color palette is to make orange and then add a little black to it. So your 2 colors here are going to make an orange tone color, which we're actually going to use later for the feet and the beak unless you choose a different color. So I need to, if it's too pink, like mine is right now, you need to add a little more yellow to it. You really want something that's on the fringe of orange. It's not ever going to be an exact like pumpkin orange. But the more yellow I add, the more close it would become to that. But I think for brown, we don't necessarily need that. For the beak later, we might want to end up making it closer to a pumpkin orange, as close as we can get. And let's go ahead and add just a tiny bit of black to that. A little bit goes a long way, as you can see, but I'm definitely getting a brown shade. Let me make sure. I don't know if I'm off camera or not. What died was my little monitor where I can see what I'm doing. So I'm just hoping everything's on camera. But if not, just follow my verbal instructions. You'll be able to see what I'm painting. It's just mainly I was concerned about my palette being off camera. So there is a color. I could add a little more black to that, I think. It can be a pretty dark brown. Okay, I want to use a smaller brush, almost said branch, to sketch out the branch. And so let's pick one out. I'll just set this here on top of my water because I'm going to use it in a minute. I think I'm really liking this one that has a little 2 on it. I've been using it the whole time. And let's go ahead and let's add a drop of water to our paint. Anytime we're drawing something long across the canvas with a small brush, I do like to have a little water in the paint. And let's go ahead and, so our feet are going to be here. Let's start way over here, kind of just like up, not quite lined up with the bottom of the owl, a little bit higher than that. And I like to make the branch kind of wobbly. I'm going to scoop under really close to the body because the feet are going to overlap the branch so it doesn't have to touch. And then let's start moving upward because we're going to have this one little twig that kind of grows up towards the light. So there, it looks like we have a funny little worm on the canvas. And I'm going to thicken this branch up. So branches are always thicker where they grow out of the tree trunk. And we're assuming our tree trunk is over here somewhere. So I'm going to drop down maybe about an inch. And I'm just sort of paralleling this branch. And as I go along, you can see I'm getting closer and closer to that original line. So by the time I'm out to like here, I want it to join into just one line. So here I am just getting closer and closer to that original line. And then I'm just going to color this part in. And tree branches are always, they're kind of scratchy with bark. So you can totally have yours be scratchy. You don't have to have perfect brush strokes here. But I do want to add a fork in the branch. So you can see it's branching off. Maybe that's why they call it a branch. Who'd have thought? And what this will do will allow me to have lots of leaves, and I can even make another one that comes off there. If you need to use a smaller brush than you're using, like a pointy brush, that's a good thing to do. And some of you, maybe your branches will be a little thicker than mine, or even thinner, it doesn't matter. But you can even do little broken off twigs. So see how I'm doing that, like a little thorn. As long as our poor little owl's not sitting on the thorn, you can put them on the branch. I could even put one down here, like maybe a branch broke off. And you can come fairly close to the belly of your owl. Just gradually. I just didn't want to touch these purple wings while they're still wet. I do like the idea of putting some leaves over here, so I am going to make an extra twig. So that's going to give me a nice little spot for leaves, yay. But we're not going to paint those yet, so we don't want to smear them with the brown paint. Let's wash the brush. I guess I didn't end up using this one. It's got a lot of good paint on it. But I felt like it was maybe a little too big for that portion of what I was doing. Okay. My owl is still a little bit wet, so I'm going to have us do something different really quick, because if mine is still wet, yours probably is too. So we're going to add something that's not on my original painting, but you guys didn't really ever see it, I don't think. So it can be on here. And that's the cool thing with painting. You can totally change things up. I'm going to add a sun, or you could add a moon. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. I'm going to take white and yellow, because I want kind of a bright light color that's going to show up over this blue. And you can paint your sun up here, just a circle. Fill it in. Can add a little more yellow in there. And again, this could be a moon. Since they're nocturnal, maybe it's at night. And I know your guys' younger grades in the fossil distance, you guys did a walrus. And the way I did the sun on that painting was really cute. I'm going to do that here. So instead of like the sun rays that go out, I'm going to do something that I learned from replicating a Vincent van Gogh painting, Starry Night. I'm going to take a small brush and just do little dashes all around my sun or moon, whatever it is. I kind of am seeing it as a moon. So this is a way of indicating light reflecting out from your object. And in Van Gogh's Starry Night, he did this all around all of the stars in his painting. They just had little dashes. And I thought it was the coolest thing. I loved doing that. I loved teaching that part. And so I have added it into a lot of different paintings along the way. But that's really cute. I totally see it as a moon. All right. Gonna wash the brush. I think that was a good addition. Hopefully you guys thought so too, because I just put it on there on the fly. I'm going to fill the eyes in with white right now, and I could just leave the canvas white, but I see some cleanup I need to do. Also, I got a little smudge of the background color in the eye. So I'm going to use a smallish brush, and you don't need to use a ton of paint, just a thin coat. A thin coat's going to dry faster so that when we come back to paint the eyeballs on, then we're not smearing the eyeball color in with this white. So a thin coat will dry a lot faster. I'm just re-rounding those out. Now that you can make your eyes bigger at this point if you wanted to. And this one too. Cool, cool. Wash the brush. I need to make some more of this pink because when I made my lavender earlier, I forgot to save some pink. So I only need a tiny bit just to finish off the face. So I just try to make the same color. And a lot of times I'll just hold my brush up to it and I can see, okay, that's a little too light. And this is really close. So what I want to do now is I want to come down. Looks funny. Looks like he's got like wrinkles or jowls or something. But this needs to be like a face mask. That is what is on our original painting, which was designed by one of my team members from years ago when I used to have a physical art studio that people could come into to paint. She designed this owl painting. It's been fun to teach along the years. Okay, cool. Let's figure out what color we want to paint the chest. So in my notes, I have it listed as light blue or turquoise. Any color, let me think here, what other colors would work? You could paint it in yellow. You could mix the white and yellow and have the same color as the sun. You could make a light blue. You could, you guys are probably more creative than me at this point. My brain's getting old. So you can think about different colors. You could do orange, but we are going to paint the beacon with orange. So we'll probably want to, but you could also paint your beacon with yellow. But how about, let's do what I had put in my notes. So I'm going to mix blue and yellow. That makes kind of a teal color. And that's a cool color on its own too. Hopefully that's on the camera. And you can scrape in a little white. And I feel like this makes a really neat color. So it's really close to the background. So I think to change that up, I'll add a little more blue to it. Still going to be pretty close. But it's a bit darker. I could just keep playing around adding more blue. But I'm going to paint that in. Yeah, I like that. That's good. The other thing I could have done is I could have added more white and made it lighter than the background. Which that's really close to what our very original version of this painting was. Kind of a light turquoise. And just be careful around the cheeks here where we just put fresh paint on. This one brush I'm using it's got one little rogue brush hair that's sticking out that really just wants to make itself known on this painting. I'm going to cover up my pink outlines on the beak. So see how I'm going right up close and just covering that up. Super colorful owl. Years ago, I made a rainbow owl, and it was kind of done more realistic with some more illustrative, kind of fantastical elements, but the colors were all rainbow colors, and it was so popular when we had our live studio, and people just loved to paint that one. And I think I just called it Colorful Owl. I guess I wasn't super creative with the name, but I mean, it said what it was, Colorful Owl. Okay. Again, I'm not using a super thick coat of paint. I'll just kind of spread this out. And now I'm going to leave my owl alone for a little bit while important parts dry. Clean the brush off. And I think we're at the point that we can paint leaves on the tree or the little branches. So you can decide, is this springtime? Is it in the fall? Is it winter? If it's winter, you want to leave the leaves off. You could put like a single kind of orange leaf, like maybe it's that one Klingon leaf that won't let go through the winter. I think looking at mine, what do I want to do? I guess I'll do it really close to what the original version of this had, and it had green leaves. And we are getting into spring here in Oregon, so let's go for it. So green is made by blue and yellow mixed together. I feel like I'm really polluting my yellow. I'm probably going to have to get some more out of the bottle for when I make my orange for the beak. So a lot of yellow is going to give you more of a Kelly leaf green. A lot of blue is going to give you more of a teal like that. So I'm using kind of a lot of yellow in mine. But yeah, you can do orange leaves, brown leaves, if you want it to be more of a fall painting. And let's see, what we did on the original is we just painted sort of an almond shape and filled it in. And you can do these in different sizes. And also, if you look at my palette, I've got the two different greens together. So I could do a few in one green, like I'm going to do right now. And then I could clean my brush and go to this darker green, which has more blue in it. And I could paint some darker green leaves. I need a different brush. This one's a little too frayed for what I'm doing. You decide how many leaves you want, what colors. If you're doing the fall look, you could do yellow leaves along with your orange leaves or brown leaves, like I mentioned. I do like the different colors of green. I think that was a good choice. Yay! I think I'll do one more little itty bitty leaf up here at the top that may be just blooming out, so it's small. I really like this. I think it's so cute. I like it when something comes together. The two different greens is fun. Okay, I'm gonna wash the brush. Still waiting for our owl to dry a little bit. We're actually getting close to being done. Other than we have to detail the owl a little bit more. So it's the chest right now. Everything else is pretty dry. The eyes and the chest are still a little bit wet. So what I'm going to have us do now is outline our owl in a dark color. You could use black, or if you still have your brown, I'm going to mix a little black with it. So it's not solid black. It's just a really, really dark brown. And I'll add some water to that. Sometimes I like to outline things in a color that's not always just black. Okay, so mixing the water in, I have a lot of paint on my brush. Too much to do a nice fine outline. So usually what I'll do is I'll just kind of pull and twist my brush on the palette or the paper towel and then redip the tip of the bristles. So you have fresh paint on the tip of the bristles, but then the rest of the brush isn't like clotted up with a bunch of paint that's going to get all over your canvas. And you want to use really light pressure unless you want a heavy outline. So I'm like just hovering my brush. It takes some work. It takes some getting used to for sure, but you'll learn that the less pressure you put down as you're gliding your brush across, the finer and thinner your outline is going to be. And sometimes it's hard. It's not something you'll learn in a day. It just takes practice. So I'm going to outline the wing on this side. And then I'll outline the wing on this side. I think we used to call this painting Who Dat, if I remember right. That was cute. Cute, fun name. And I'm not going to outline under here. If you already did, it's not a big deal, but I want to have that nice and dry for putting feet. But I will outline the eyes. And you'll want to save a little bit of this outline color so that we can outline the beak once it's filled in with orange. So we'll fill it in first and then we'll outline it. Refresh your paint with water once in a while, stir it around, then pull and twist your brush and redip the tip of the bristles. And let's just outline this part here and here, leaving the beak for now. And on the wings, we can decorate those up a little bit. So what we did originally was these little lines that sort of indicate feathers. They're just sort of curved little dashes. I'm doing these in the outline color, but you can absolutely do them in another color. In fact, on the chest, we do some different lines too, and I'll probably do those in a different color, maybe white. And now let's paint the eyes in, the actual eyeballs. So these are, I've got a little bit of wet white on there, but I don't think it's going to cause too much trouble for me. So I'm going to wash the brush, and you can use any color on your palette. I'll just use black. And you can make the eyeball part as big as you want. You can make them inward, so he's cross-eyed. You can make one out over here, one out over here. I think I'm going to do them just right in the middle. So just painting a black circle and filling it in. And we'll highlight that once it dries a little bit. Yeah, starting to look more like an owl for sure. How about some feet? It's feet time. We don't have a whole lot left to do here, just beak, feet, and chest decoration, and the highlights and the eyes, and we'll be done. And you can continue working on it after the whole video is over too. Just expand on it, make it as big as you want, make extra L's, whatever you want to do. Okay, so let's make orange. So orange was made with yellow. It's your yellow and your red color. You can use the pink, or some of you guys at home doing the painting on your own with your own supplies will have red paint, hopefully. This is called phthalo red. I mentioned that in the beginning. And it's just a certain mineral in it that has a really long name, like phthalocylene or something like that. I can't remember the exact name. Okay, something's reminding me of something. Okay, let's make orange. So pink or red and yellow. More yellow than the pink color. That's how you're going to get closer to like a pumpkin orange. Don't know if I'm off camera since my monitor is dead, but let's move this over here. So yeah, that's a good color. And I will do the feet and then we'll fill in the beak. So you want to pick a smallish brush. For the feet, they have little claws, so we're just going to do 1, 2, and I think owls have, I've looked at several pictures, I think they have 2 in the front and then 1 that hooks around the back of the branch. And I thought for the longest time I was painting them wrong, and then I had a look and I was like, okay, my brain did the right thing. It knew how they looked and automatically painted 2 in the front without the 3rd on there. And they have talons. If you want to paint nails in any color you want, I say go for it. And I'm going to paint the beak in with that same color. And we will want to outline that in a minute, but let's give this orange a minute to dry. Wash that brush. It's really cute. I like it. And now for the chest feathers. You can use the dark outline color. I'm actually going to use, I'm just looking at my palette here. I think the color that's going to work best in my case is white. And I'm using a small brush and just a little bit of paint. And basically you're going to make these little scallop shapes. So it's almost like you're painting a bunch of U shapes. And I might mix some water with my white or whatever color you're using because it's running out of paint before I get my full shape drawn on there. And having the water on there, look how many I can do before I have to redip the brush. So it's like their little cute feather armor. And since I've got the white, I'm going to highlight the eyes now. Now the black is still very wet. So I'm just going to put a glob of white on there and just do a dot. And because I didn't really move my brush around a lot, it didn't smear in the black. And then down at an angle, I'm going to do another dot. Oh, he's so cute. And now, a couple little outlines left to do. If you want to put a vein down the center of your leaves, you can totally do that. Like you could use your outline color and just paint a line that goes either all the way through or just part way through. It's just adding extra detail. It's cute. Okay, so I've got my outline color. That was the dark brownish black we put around the owl. I need to outline right across here. The belly that goes right up to the branch. You can outline the feet later if you want, but it's not necessary. And the beak. So I'm pressing very lightly, using as little pressure as I can possibly do, just letting that very tip of the bristles sort of glide. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. If you want to do like this feather pattern on the head, you can do that. Their heads are full of feathers, and the feathers kind of go out at an angle, but you've seen pictures of the owls that have the, like, looks like big eyelashes around. If you want to give your owl eyelashes, I say go for it. I'm going to do something fun here. I'm going to give it little whiskers in the ear because they have these feathers. Obviously, their whole face is covered with feathers, but isn't this cute? I think that's so cute. My dog has these little ear tufts like this, and they're really long. She looks like an old man. I love it. You can put a little highlight on the beak facing the light source, which is your sun or moon there. So just in the orange part, a little highlight. You can even highlight the feet. And remember I mentioned nails? How about white? Maybe white wasn't the right color, but black would be good too, dark brown. There, now you just need to sign your painting and you're done, unless you want to play around with it after the video, which I recommend at all times. Remember, paintings are never finished, they're just abandoned, but we are going to sign ours before we abandon it. And I like to just mix a little water with whatever paint I'm signing with. You can see I'm kind of playing around with the color. And this brush is maybe a little big. Pull and twist your brush, knock off excess paint, and then just redip the tip of the bristles. And paint your name or your initials. I've just, over the years, made a very simple loop-de-loo. And there is our adorable owl. I hope you guys had fun. I really enjoyed this one. Happy to paint it again. And we'll see you for the next video. Bye!